So once again, hello and welcome everyone to Adobe CC Design Live. My name is Terry White. It's my pleasure to be streaming to you live today about 3 new features, more than 3, but 3 today, that I think in Photoshop CC 2018, which just came out 2 weeks ago, that designers will absolutely love. It's about a lot of little things in this update that just make our workflow that much better every time we use Photoshop. So I'm excited about this, and let's go ahead and dive in. So actually, let me do one more thing over here. Let's quit out of that. All right, cool. Okay, let's go ahead and switch over to my computer so you guys can see what I'm working on here. I've got Photoshop CC open. I've got a few documents open in the tabs here. And what I'd love to do now is show you one of my first favorite new things, and it's one that you will grow to use as more of the fonts become available for this feature. So this is a new type feature, and this feature is based on what's called variable fonts. So, it's one of those things you can't use it on your regular fonts. You'll use it on new fonts that get or new fonts in Typekit, for example, that replace the old ones, and you'll be able to use it from that point going on. So the first feature is actually called variable type. I've got some text here on the page. I've got a type layer. I'm going to just switch over to my type tool so I get my type menu. And as you can see, I'm using Myriad Variable Concept because it's a concept font. Let's go ahead and choose it. And anything with the VAR on it, you will be able to use this feature. So if you go through, if you've updated to 2018, you might have some of these fonts already. If not, they are coming for you. I shouldn't say it that way. They're coming to you. All right, so with that said, now that I've got the type selected or the layer selected and I've explained what it is, how do you get to this feature and how do you use it? It's actually in your properties panel. And in the properties panel just keeps getting better for Photoshop and Illustrator. But as you can see, it's giving me my usual things I would expect, where the text frame is, height, width, what font, what style, the size, the kerning and tracking, and the leading. And then, of course, I get the justification and the color. But then there's 2 new options here, weight and width. And if I go to advanced, I don't know, was I going to get more there? Or did I just mess myself? Oh, when I go to advanced, it just takes me to the regular character panel. Let's go back to properties, where I can now vary the weight of that without having to necessarily choose a different style. So I can make it much thinner just by sliding this, or make it much thicker. Again, all using one variable font, so I don't have to keep changing different weights, changing different families, changing different fonts to get what I want. So that's the weight slider. There's also the width slider, which kind of makes it more condensed in this case and more expanded in this case. So you have both of those sliders to kind of get the type to look exactly the way you want for the situation that you're working on. So variable fonts inside of Photoshop CC. I keep wanting to call them variable width fonts, but it's more than just the width. It's also the weight. And hello Brazil. Glad you're here on a Thursday, probably early evening for you. All right, so with that said, that is one. So look for variable fonts from here on out. I can imagine in a year or so, all of our fonts will be variable. So it's one of those things where this is just laying the foundation for this feature. And I expect, all the font houses to start taking advantage of some of these new capabilities, including Typekit. All right, so next up, let's take a look at the next one, which is kind of cool, kind of exciting. For those of you who never quite got the hang of the pen tool, this one is for you. This feature was actually first introduced inside of Illustrator, and it has now made its way into Photoshop, and it's a new pen tool called the Curvature. Is it called the Curvature pen? Let's see if I can get it to pop up the name of it here. It's either the Curvature pen tool or the Curvature tool. I can't remember which. But anyway, it'll be located probably near your pen tools. I've created a custom tool panel, which is another Photoshop feature. So mine is basically where I put it. I put it under my type tool. But anyway, what this tool does and how it's different is, first and foremost, you get to decide up front whether or not you want to create a path or a shape. That's pretty cool. So let's say I just wanted to make a selection of this flower. So I create a path that way. Then I can start anywhere I want. And as you know, with the pen tool, you usually click and then you go to your next point and you kind of guess where that might be. And then you click or drag and then it's wrong. It's not really what you wanted. And then you click and that, oh wait, it's kind of curving it out now. And I'm kind of getting more of what I want as I click around. It's kind of adjusting. And I know you're thinking, well, Terry, that's still not that good. You're still not tight around that sunflower. But let me keep going around it as if I just want to go everywhere the direction changes. I'm going to show you something I think you'll like when we get to the end here. All right, so I'm just going to work my way around. I'm not going to really care that it's not getting it just right just yet. Just going to kind of click everywhere there's a real significant direction change and go all the way down to here. Now I can work my way all the way back around, and you know what? We'll do that later. All right, so now it didn't quite get it. Where there should be corner points, they're curve points. Where there should be curve points, they're corner points. And normally this would mean switching to a bunch of different tools to get it to do what you want it to do. Now that's no longer the case. So for example, if I want to add a point, I don't have to go to the pen with a plus sign or hold a modifier key down. I just click and drag and move that where I want it to be. Click and drag and move that where I want it to be. If I want this to be a corner point instead, double click. That should be a corner point, double click. But I kind of need some curvature here. Let's just go ahead and click and really get this tight around here the way I want. So very cool using this tool. It is definitely my new favorite pen tool because it's all the pen tools, much easier to use all in one. I don't have to think about it anymore. Let's go ahead and put one here, pull this back down. Maybe make that a corner point, and then we'll just go ahead and click and move that one up. So I'm just clicking and dragging, really getting this exactly the way I want. This would have been a major pain in the butt to do it with the other tools, the old-fashioned pen tool from the early 80s actually, or late 80s I should say. But now it's much, much easier to do this kind of work, and I don't have to really fuss with it. I thought you probably thought I was going to say something else. I don't have to fuss with it as much. And again, I'm just kind of just eyeballing this. I could, of course, zoom in and do a really super tight job on it, but I think you get the idea of how cool this is. So if the point is not what you want it to be, try double clicking to convert it into a corner point, or double clicking to convert a corner point into a curve point and get that look exactly the way you want around the object that you're trying to select, trace, or draw. So I said I would go ahead and close it off. So let's go ahead and start it here at the end. Now, when I click, of course, it's going to want to make a curve. That's fine. I'm just going to go ahead and finish it off. And the idea is here is that I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to get the exact point that I need right off the bat. So we'll finish that off and we'll say, no, double click. That should be a corner point. That should be a corner point. That should be a corner point, and that should be a corner point. And now if I need to go in and adjust this more, I can. So this is what makes this tool so cool and so easy to use. And if you ever needed to use the pen tool inside of Photoshop and you had a hard time, I mean, you never really learned the old one, I think you're really going to dig this new one. All right, so with that said, hey, Rufus is in the house as well. What's going on, Rufus? So, like I said, that will now be a path because I told it to be. So I can go ahead and double click on that work path and save it as flower trace. And because the reason you would make a path instead of a path instead of a shape is because you'd want to make a selection from that path. So now that I've done that, I can go ahead and use that as my selection, fill it with a color, do whatever I want, and away I go. All right, so that path has been saved and away I go. And again, just to show you how quickly and easily this can be used, let's go ahead and just switch it to one more thing. Let's go ahead and switch it to shape this time. So now when I click around, I'm actually building a shape as opposed to a selection path. So in this case, I'm actually drawing with it instead of tracing something. So just something as simple as a heart. If I were to go ahead and click where the center of the heart should be, click where the other side of the heart should be, and then click again. And yes, you finally caught me live, Michelle, I'm here. And now, of course, I would double click to say, nope, that's a corner. Double click to say, nope, that's a corner. And then I could, of course, pull that corner point down and click if I want some more curve here. Just add another curve point, and I get my, my fill of whatever color I want. And there is my new heart, my new love for this tool. So love, love, love the curvature tool. Loved it when it was first introduced in Illustrator. Love it even more now that it's here inside of Photoshop. So it makes my heart beat. All right, we'll animate that later. Okay, so there we go. The curvature tool inside of Photoshop CC. So far we've taken a look at two. We've taken a look at variable fonts, curvature tool. We'll go ahead and just rename this layer heart. We'll come back to that in a second. What else is new? What's the third thing? Because I said there would be three. Well, actually, I'm going to give you some bonus ones because I can't just do three. There's some other cool things I want to show you. So let's jump over to this empty document. And on this empty document, what I want to do is switch over to a brush. And I'm on a custom brush here that I can use. But, you know, managing brushes has never been fun inside of Photoshop. And now that just got a lot more feasible, a lot more fun. Because as you know, you can have hundreds and maybe even thousands of different brushes, but organizing them was always a pain. So you would always use your brush presets to kind of do that. Now you could actually create your own organization. So for example, I do a lot of portrait retouching. So I could make a retouching set of brushes. And now that that folder has been created, any brushes that I use for retouching, so let's say I use the swirl brush 20 pixels, I can drag down. I get that to scroll, that'd be great. There we go. Scroll it down the list. And once I get down the list, and of course I could probably view this by icon, which might make it a little easier. But once I get it down the list, I can drag that into retouching. So I can keep all the brushes that I use for a specific purpose organized. So let's drag one that's not that far. For example, that one. And now whenever I want to do retouching, I just expose my retouching brushes. There they all are. I don't have to search around through hundreds of brushes. I just quickly click and use the ones that I need. All right, that was a bonus one actually, brush presets. What I want to get to, I can't show you the next one without kind of talking about that. The next one is kind of fun, and that is here, let me go ahead and switch my color here. Let's also use a nice red on this too. This is the brush smoothing, and this kind of reminds me of the pencil tool smoothing inside of Illustrator. So if you've used Illustrator and you've used the smoothing capabilities in Illustrator, this will be second nature to you as well. So what I want to do is, of course, I could try and draw a heart, you know, kind of get something that looks like that. And you'll notice that it wasn't so bad. It was okay. That's because there's a brand new brush smoothing. Now by default, it's normally I think on 10% or 0. So let's take it down to 10. And if I were to do that same thing, then it's more freehand, meaning in other words, I'm going to get the same crappy heart I've been drawing for years. But if I turn that on to smoothing 100% or higher, or you know, higher than 10, then what you'll notice happens is it kind of leads me in. So I kind of see that purple mark, so I can get a much smoother stroke and look, because I'm kind of predicting where the brush is going to go. So for people that are painting and trying kind of tracing over things or just creating artwork from scratch, the brush smoothing will kind of guide you. Because in other words, as you're making that stroke, you get that little bit of preview to let you know where your path is going to go. So I think this is really cool. All right, that's not an L. Let's undo that. All right, that's an L. There we go. Pretty cool. Brush smoothing. So last but not least, another bonus one. So we did variable fonts, curvature tool, brush stuff, presets and smoothness. Here's a bonus one that you can actually now, for the first time, and I know this is going to sound silly, I'm not selecting anything, the layer is selected, but I'm not like using a selection tool. I can now, for the first time, just go to copy, switch to a different document or even the same document, and paste. That's right, you can copy and paste layers now inside of Photoshop. Yay, finally, it's here. Copy, paste, layers. And I just did one. Had I selected a bunch of layers, like for example, if I select both of these layers and do the same thing, copy, and go back to my first document and paste, then it will paste those individual layers. So I still have the individual controls of just the heart and just the little brush stroke I did. So you have the ability to do as many layers as you want, copy, paste into a document, copy layer groups, all kinds of copying and organizing layers into layer sets or layer groups, and controlling which ones copy over to another document without having to do that duplicate to another document that I used to do. So copy paste layers just works as you would expect it to. Select layers, copy, go to your different document or same document, paste, and you got duplicate layers or new layers. So with that said, I want to thank everyone for joining me here. I didn't really see any questions pop up. I saw Ener jump in, I saw Rufus jump in, saw a bunch of people jump in. But if you have questions and I missed them, now would be the time to ask. Also, looks like my Facebook window isn't updating. Let's see if we can close that and open it back up. And that is it for today's stream. I want to thank everyone who joined me live, and those of you who I saw some little hearts and thumbs up go across that you like these features as well. Oh, there are the comments. All right. So Rufus says, very cool. People are saying hello. Yeah, thanks. Hello, everyone. Columbia, what's up? Finally copy and pasting. I know, right? Yeah, I've been waiting for this too. All right. So with that said, and you're welcome, Linda. So with that said, thanks everyone for joining me today live. I am live usually at least 4 to 5 days a week. Next week I'll be traveling, I think, so I won't be live next week, but I'll certainly be live the week after on Facebook and YouTube. And you can always join us for our 3-day streams, which there's one going on right now at behance.net. So if you go to behance.net, you can always see the live stream that's going on. And this week, I believe it's package design. Next week, they're doing a 3-day stream on illustrators or illustration. So if you're into more, you want to see it live, you want to see, pros, you want to see people that do this stuff for a living, art directors and creatives doing this all day for 3 straight days. You can head over to behance.net and check it out. Today is the last day, and it ends 5 Pacific time. So you still got about 3 to 4 hours before it's over. So check it out, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody. Cheers.